Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Demonic, directed by Neil Blomkamp and starring anybody who I've never seen before in my life. Now, why am I coming back to Neil Blomkamp? Because he made a new movie. And what is this movie called, Demonic? Well, I'm here to tell you. Let's get started on this thing. The opening music after we go through all the opening logos is just awful, demonic music that's supposed to sound horrifying, but it just comes off horrible. While Carly has a dream and sees her mother Angela as she burns her cell, as she's fucking insane. As soon as she wakes up, I thought, turn off that goddamn alarm, as it was getting on my last nerves. Carly goes out for the day, and Carly as a character is rather alienating, as she gets a text message from Martin, who will be in the movie eventually, as she goes to a friend's house, and this friend named Sam owns a house, as she's house sitting, and these characters come off rather terrible. The shots look like it was shot digitally in the most unconvincing way, as this is a low budget horror movie that won't come off as big as the Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. As this one is shot still unlike those two films. Carly gets back to Martin reluctantly and meets him as she's afraid to keep contact with him, as he gets a phone call to see hospital patients, and including Angela, who's in a clinic with a coma. And the acting in this thing is not The Room, the Tommy Wiseau hilarious, but rather pretentious, predictable, and very unconvincing. As Carly gets a call to see Angela from the clinic, with as Angela is not doing well, as she might die soon, and director Neil Blomkamp, who was going to do Alien 5 at one point, as that project is dead, did a lousy job at telling a low budget horror film. And is this what Neil Blomkamp can do instead of Alien 5, as I've never seen these actors in big roles in any movies? As Carly Pope, who's the actress as Carly, was in a brief role in Elysium, and the actress playing Angela was in District 9. So Neil Blomkamp did bring a couple of sort of familiar faces from his previous movies, but I don't know them. And as far as the directing goes, is this the best he can do? As I think he would have pulled off Alien 5 better than this bullshit, where he doesn't make very good characters. And you may remember I really liked District 9, and Elysium was pretty good. And I thought at this time Chappie was the worst, but nope, it's going to this movie. As this is one of the worst plots, acting, directing job from Neil Blomkamp. But by the next film he does, I'll debate whether or not if I like him or not, as a director. Because he's kind of on the so-so side because of this and Chappie versus District 9 and Elysium, in my opinion. But I think he needs to go back to science fiction anyways and not do another horror film. Carly goes to sleep at the clinic and tells Angela in a dream how much she hates her, as she comes to the clinic to tell her how fucking disgusting she is, and she tells her off, as Angela is possessed by something demonic, and tells Carly to leave and never come back, as the scene makes no fucking sense, as that's not a way a mother-daughter relationship goes, unless she's abusive, the mother I mean. But we don't know anything about what Angela did to Carly in the first place, and that's a failure of the script to not tell us a damn thing about why Carly had a dark past to begin with. Such bullshit. Carly dreams of being in the demonic world as she hears Angela calling her name as she tries to find her mother, and it goes by rather too quickly in my mind as it blows by, and I don't understand what the fuck is going on at this point. Carly goes back to the clinic and the demonic dream world, I'll say, and tries to get Angela out of the coma she's in, and sees a giant Alice in Wonderland looking hole with a bright light to the daylight, and I kept falling asleep during these scenes as it's for my first viewing. I had to watch it twice for this show, as it's absolutely fucking boring. But when I do learn on But what I do learn on second viewing is Carly and Martin was called by a demon, while Michael doesn't do a fucking thing to wake Carly up, as she wants to get out of there. And honestly, there's something suspicious in Michael. Like, he might be involved or up to something. And Carly sees Sam in the dream and gets a cut on her arm by the demon, and that, I swear to God, looks like a giant crow. And she wakes up to tell Michael she doesn't understand what the hell is going on in the demonic world. Carly explains how Angela becomes a demonic person, as she and Martin saw Angela's arm was cut, and this is when she was a young girl, as she cuts a bird to death and is taken to the mental hospital, and Carly burns down the house. And the story didn't feel convincing by the acting in this movie, as Carly doesn't want to deal with it anymore, as she calls Sam to see if she's alright because of the demonic world dream, which is the creepiest fucking thing I've ever heard. Just kidding. Totally being sarcastic. As this movie is full of shit. Like any other demon movies, like The Conjuring or fucking Paranormal Activity, as The Exorcist, felt very, very real back in the day. I'll have to do that movie one day. As a, as and there is a reboot of that coming up. I just don't know when it's coming. Carly goes to Martin's place as she gets more information about the demonic world, as it started back in 1899, as he tells the story about how it happened back then. And I thought, yeah, and blah, blah, fucking blah. The acting by these actors are dead staled, as I can't stand what their characters, what the characters, nor this fucking plot. Carly drives off, as it sounds like a bullshit. It's bullshit, as this would have been something I'd run out of either. Sam goes into Carly's house, and Carly is freaked out, and as Carly needs some space, and forces Sam out of the door because she needs some space. And my real problem is, I don't care, as I don't care whether or not these people make it out alive or dead, as I had to watch this movie in 2 nights for my first viewing, because it was so boring, bland, and bad that I finished it in the next day. And still think it's so bad, but I'll get there when I get there. Sam gets to the house again as Carly realizes Sam is possessed, as she feared, as I just don't care anymore, and I'm checked out of this movie at this point. I am so fucking tired of demon movies, it's not even funny. Michael is watching Carly like a creep, as he has a brand of the cross on his back, as Carly goes to Sam's place to see if she's okay, but unfortunately, she's possessed by the devil, and she calls the cops while at Sam's place to find her, with the officer who arrived on the crime scene, as the cop gives her useless information about needing 48 hours to file a missing persons case, and goes to Martin for help to find Sam, and he goes with Carly to find Sam, and goes to the place where she's captured at 3 a.m., and they get there and find her car there without her body in it, and they see a missing shoe and finds Sam, as she doesn't know how she got to where she's at, and she says she saw Angela in a building, and Martin wants to leave as Carly wants to go to the building, and Martin goes with her, which is totally unrealistic, like in any movie in my opinion, that does it as poorly as this did. They find Michael's assistant Daniel sitting in a car, all bloodied up, as there's something wrong with the motherfucker to begin with. Carly goes in the demonic world with the same equipment as the clinic has, and she goes in the building in the demonic world and sees an innocent Angela telling Carly to leave as it was their house, and she just fucking dies? Like that? As that pissed me off. While in the real world, Martin is killed off, kind of. Well, killed off screen, but that's not true. And Carly wakes up and she sees a burning truck, and Sam is killed in that very truck. While Carly hunts for Michael, as she sees Martin not dead after all, thank God. While running away, Michael is the demon, which wasn't that already obvious? I mean, Jesus Christ. Carly goes inside a factory with some night vision goggles to spot the demon as the demon goes off against Carly, as he gets stabbed and turns into a demon that looks like a hawk, and it possesses Carly briefly and stabs herself in the stomach, and it just dies like that? What a load of shit! Carly wakes up in the hospital with Martin as the visitor, and when she gets out, visits a cemetery to go to Angela's grave, and I was glad the movie was over because, wow, what a load of shit! Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 1.1 out of 10. This is the very worst of Neil Blomkamp's work, as the story was awful, the acting was horrible, and the cinematography looked like a typical movie made for video. As this is a low-budget horror movie with nothing new to offer, I was checked out after an hour into the movie, as this movie makes absolutely no fucking sense, and the movie looks truly bad. Right now, I'm kind of iffy on Neil Blomkamp, as he has one more movie to prove if he has the great directing skills that he was made into District 9, although there is rumors that he's going to work on District 10. We'll see if that happens anytime soon. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me and coming back to Neil Blomkamp. And until then, and let's get rid of the bugs.